Go ahead and call Finance Committee to order. We're a little shorthanded. We've only got 4 council members, but we have enough to get most things done that we need to get done tonight. So I'm going to start with the request for council action for finance. We have 22234 MOU with the county for sanitary sewer replacement for West Smith reconstruction. 22235 amend ordinance number 13922 bids for West Smith Road reconstruction. 22-236 stormwater operation and maintenance agreement for Sandridge Food. 22-237 amend civil service rule 8 section K subsection 3. 22-238 grant application for body worn cameras for the police department. 22-239 purchase 3 2023 Ford Explorers for the police department. 22-240 sale of fire apparatus for the fire department. And we had one that was added today for Finance Committee, a request for council action, 22-241, increase expenditures for absolute construction for CHIP project. All right. Our first item tonight is 22-231, pickleball courts. It's a recommendation that came from Public Properties. I will, just a quick recap, because actually Mr. Lamb, myself, and Mr. Simpson are on Public Properties, and Jansen did a really nice job of giving us 3 great proposals. One involving Ken Cleveland Park, where we would resurface and end up with 2 courts, some brand new pickleball courts at Mellard Park, which would amount to 4. And our third option was to do a combination program or project with the schools there's 4 tennis courts at AI Root Middle School, and we would take 2 of those courts and turn them into 6 pickleball courts. So Jansen, if you want to take it from there and just kind of talk a little bit.
Yeah, so the 3 options that we had, with 2 being on city property, the lesser expensive of the 3 was to temporarily patch. The reason I say temporary is because it's not a permanent fix, and create 2 pickleball courts like you had mentioned. And then the 4 brand new courts, the cost difference between 4 and 6 really wasn't that significant, and it seemed like a good solution to our issue to utilize the existing 2 courts at AI Root Middle School, work with them collaboratively to get 6 courts over there. We did also talk with Medina Pickleball Association, as well as Carol Erickson. And the group is accustomed to using AI Root. We had already striped pickleball courts there about 2.5 years ago for them to use during the summer. And I think this is a good solution to get the most courts for the least amount of money, and take advantage of that area at AI Root, where there's typically ample parking, and it'll be a good site for everybody. Pickleball, just for everyone's benefit, is one of the, if not the fastest growing sport right now, that is played by all ages, but mostly those in the senior category. Careful. The Pickleball Association did provide us with some data that I shared at Public Properties that showed us different age demographics, the times a day that they're using it, as well as where a majority of their members are from. And basically, to summarize the results, most of the individuals participating in their association are from the 44256 zip code. And I think it'll be a nice addition to school property and work a continued collaboration with the city.
And Jansen, you want to talk for just 1 minute about the funding for this?
Yes, the funding that the city will be using is the ARPA funds that we received. The total for the project is approximately $194,000. We do need to get that quote updated, but it would be our anticipation to split that cost with the school.
And I know from the school's point of view, the Board of Education is in favor of this project, this joint project, and the Facilities Committee, that is a subgroup of the board, as well as some outside people that consult on our facilities. They were all very much in favor of this idea as well. So I think if council is good with it, the 4 of us tonight, that gives you the go-ahead to continue working with the schools and start moving this project forward then.
Yeah, I believe the Facilities Committee has already discussed this.
They have,
Yeah.
yep. And now the whole entire board also is aware of it and felt good about the
Yeah,
idea too.
So if everybody's agreeable to it, we'll get the quote updated, and I'll work with Ryan and get that moving.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from council?
Mr. Chair, one question. When you say split the cost, it's a 50/50 split?
Yes, it will be a 50/50 split.
Right, thank you.
Jim, just one more thing, if I could.
Yes. Yes,
So
sir.
the advantage of having it on route property that we didn't address tonight, we did at public properties, is then the advantage of the gym or physical education classes being able to go out and use those as well.
Correct.
Without having to travel or not be able to get to them. So really, we looked at the three locations where we could get the most for both the school's dollars and our dollars, and get the most use of the 6 courts. And this just seemed to be the best solution for all, and the city appreciates the school's collaboration with this.
Thank you, Mayor. And also Medina Pickleball had offered to come over and teach some classes and teach the middle school students about the game and do demonstrations. So this will be a good collaboration with a lot of parties involved.
And it's been good working with the Pickleball Association. There's been a lot of interest over the last few years of getting this process moving. So Jansen and administration, thank you so much, and thank the schools, Jim. But with that, I move to approve.
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. 22234, an MOU with the county for the sanitary sewer replacement along the West Smith Road project. Patrick?
Thank you. We've done this in the past. I think South Broadway comes to mind. The county likes us to enter into an MOU. They are going to be paying for the sanitary sewer replacement on West Smith Road. County commissioners already approved this. It's a similar form, the same form that we used in the past. The cost that the county will be responsible for is a little over $375,000.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Thank you. 22235, amend ordinance 139-22, the bids for the West Smith Road reconstruction project. Patrick?
Thank you. We did receive bids last month for this project. The low bid that was submitted exceeded our authorized amount by about $160,000. After review and consulting with our consultant, we're recommending that we amend that ordinance and to increase it by $160,000 and award the project to Fetchco Excavating. I think the bid represents the fair cost to what this project is worth. Prices have just skyrocketed here in the last several months. I don't think there'll be any advantage for us to reject the bids and rebid it. I'm pretty sure we would get a higher bid if we did that. So the new funding split reflects actually the MOU that you just passed. City share is about $2.8 million. The grant is a little over $2 million, and of course the county $375,000.
And then, Patrick, I know you had asked for the emergency clause, but we will not be able to. do
Correct. Yeah, we can't actually sign the contract until this is modified. The longer we delay signing it, more chance for material costs to go up and delivery dates have been a real issue, so the sooner the better.
Okay. And there's no way around that tonight.
Right. So if we need the emergency clause, Patrick, we would be better to table this and add it to the agenda for
Nope.
tomorrow.
Oh, Kathy's saying,
No, as long as we pass it, when we pass the legislation with the emergency clause.
we can add the emergency clause at the meeting? Okay. All right. So just pass it as normal, no emergency clause, but then when we have it as a piece of legislation, we'll add the emergency clause. Okay.
Thank you.
Any further questions on this one?
Move to approve.
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. 22236, stormwater operations and maintenance agreement with Sandridge Food. Is this you, Patrick, also?
Thank you. Council probably aware we've passed several of these here in the last 6, 8 months. It is an EPA requirement. Anyone doing a project of a certain size, we have to enter into an agreement with them. Basically, it commits them to maintaining their detention basin up to a certain standard. There's an annual reporting process. No cost to us. Our involvement, though, is we do have to track these things annually, so a little bit of time on our end, but all the burden for maintenance is on the property owner.
Any questions?
Move to approve?
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Thank you.
22237, review civil service rule number 8, and then section K, section 3. Chief or Mayor?
Right, I told Lorene I would handle this for her. So what happens now is Civil Service Rule 8K3 provides for a 1-year probationary period for police lieutenant and police chief, but does not mention the sergeants. However, in the collective bargaining agreement with the sergeants, it does mention a 1-year probationary period. The fact that K3 is silent on it, it would defer to a 45-day probationary period as it does for other promotional exams if it's not specified differently. So what this request is to amend Civil Service Rule 8K3 to add the police sergeant's 1-year probationary period so it's consistent both with the collective bargaining agreement as well as the other promotional positions within the police department.
Questions?
Move to approve?
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
22239, purchase 3 2023 Ford Explorers for the police department. Chief Kinney?
Yeah, we skipped the grant.
Oh, I'm sorry. 22238 for grant application body worn cameras.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a request for the grant application and acceptance for the body-worn cameras that we currently have if we're able to upgrade them. This is a 50% match on that $44,671. This grant, if awarded to us, is good until December of 2024. That'll be approximately 5 years on our existing body cameras. However, if our vendor does not come out with a new camera, by then we will likely decline this grant. It wouldn't be worth the $44,000 match if we're just buying 5-year-old equipment. The emergency clause is requested because the application date has gone by. Thank you.
And as we mentioned with Mr. Patton, we won't be able to approve it tonight with the emergency clause, but we can add it to the legislation at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Questions?
Move to approve?
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, and then, sorry, now 22239, purchase 3 2023 Ford Explorers for the police department.
Thank you. This is for the budgeted purchase of 3 frontline police vehicles. It's important to note that all of the Explorers, they've increased the price on our police cars by $7,200 per vehicle for 2023. So that's a substantial increase in the amount of these vehicles. This quote is through the cooperative purchasing program, and it is for the vehicles as well as the upfit for each vehicle.
Any questions? I know, as you mentioned, it was already budgeted for these, so.
Yes, sir.
Move to approve?
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, Chief. 22240, authorized sale of fire apparatus for the fire department. Chief Walters?
Thank you. This is for a 1997 Snorkel fire truck that the fire department has. It's an articulating boom aerial platform that is, it's no longer a frontline or a first response apparatus in our current day operation. Over the years, it's been replaced essentially by 2 other ladder trucks that we own. 2010, that's 105 foot, and a 2015 85 foot that are newer and better served. They've essentially replaced this truck, so we're not using it. However, it's still in really good shape with low miles, and it has value beyond what we could expect to get at the local auction. So what we've submitted here, what we're requesting is permission from the council to use Brindley Mountain Fire Apparatus. They are a specialist in sales for fire apparatus, and they estimate that they could get more than $50,000 for that vehicle. So that is the request.
I see it was subject to the review and approval of the law director. Mr. Huber, have you had a chance to look at it yet? Or
Yes,
should we-
I'm sorry. Mr. Huber did look at it. He's made comments, and I've taken those comments back to the vendor. So it would still be subject to his final approval.
Final
Yes,
approval of
sir.
the law director. Any other questions from council?
Move to approve?
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. I'm sorry, subject to the final approval of the law director. Correct. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The next one is the discussion of lighting decorations on the square, the spheres. I don't know if Mr. Piccoli, who loves the decoration and the lights more than anybody, other than Mr. Coyne, if he would like to take this one.
Thank you, Mr. Acting President. So we recently held a preparation meeting for the Candlelight Walk like we do every year around this time as we get closer. Jansen, myself, George, and Angela here from Main Street with the mayor. In that meeting was brought up about potentially hanging some lighting spheres, globes. I know George has a sample here of the same. It's a new addition to what we traditionally have done, lights, buildings. Last year, Jansen ventured out and did a tree trunk as well as some limbs on a bigger tree. I know before Matt left, we did the wreaths on all the street light poles, luminaires, and with that addition, we had a lot of discussion. So the long story short is, being a new addition to the program, we felt that it's the city park and the council should weigh in. Mr. Coyne did weigh in, even though he's not here. He emailed. Jansen and I and George and Angela were on the email thread. So with that, our guys in the street department handle the street trees and the buildings, the outer area. Jansen and his folks handle the inner square. So really, it would be Jansen's staff and the availability of the same, and Jansen may want to speak to that as well, so I'm not sure who wants to proceed with the discussion.
Please.
Yeah, Nino is correct with the exception. There is a number of volunteers that help with decorating as well, wrapping the light posts and hanging the wreaths, and then we facilitate powering all those. So George has, I believe, 14 spheres that they're interested in hanging in the park. As Nino mentioned, it would likely fall on our staff to do that, but I do think you had mentioned there is a possibility of a contractor doing that. So I guess it's more of an opinion on, do we want to add more to it? Do we want to make it different? It's kind of a decision we're looking for some input on from everybody. It will be a pretty substantial amount of work just because each sphere does require power. So you have to not only hang the sphere, but run power to it and then get it down to the ground into a spider box. So I don't really know how long it would take until we tried it, but it would be just another additional thing to put up and take down.
Jansen, how are those going to be hung so that somebody doesn't get hurt? And who's going to guarantee that somebody doesn't get hurt?
I would have to look at the manual that probably came with it, and I would assume that it gets hung by a rope or something from the top knob there, and then each cord would have to be plugged and taped because it would be out in the elements. So there'd be a number of connections. There would be the chance that, somebody could grab the extension cord that is connected to. At the same time, there are extension cords all over the place. We do the best we can to make sure they don't get messed with, but they do pretty frequently.
Well, that's what I was wondering. I mean, just a string of lights generally not too likely to cause a problem, but something like that falls on somebody, I would estimate that somebody would then have a complaint against the city for it, and it's a different situation. So I guess I'm not too enthusiastic about that.
And George, where would you plan on putting those?
We're going to have you go to the microphone, George, if you wouldn't mind.
Thank you. Yeah, the intention was that there's dark areas around the square. Most of the square is lit up, the gazebo's lit up, and there's dark areas around the square. We had done what we called a forest of trees last year. Those trees are pretty much done at this point. They can't be lighted again. They can't be used again. So this was a way to darken up some of those areas. So we're thinking the lower large limbs that are in the grassy areas, it wouldn't be anywhere above where people would normally walk. I'm sure people do walk around all over the grass, but that was the plan, to put them on the larger limbs, kind of sporadically across the dark areas of the square. And Jansen mentioned we can collect them into one area or scatter them out, whatever ends up working best.
And they would be high enough that people couldn't reach up and grab them.
Correct. We discussed that they would have to be up on the higher limbs. They're low limbs, but they're high enough that they would be out of reach of anyone.
Mr. Lamb or Mr. Rose?
Mr. Simpson asked my question. I'm just thinking of all those other kids that'd be standing on somebody's shoulders, grabbing onto them and hanging. When I was a kid, we might have done something like that.
Or not, yeah.
Or not.
I guess I don't understand how we come up with that as an idea. I think we originally had a plan to enhance the, I guess to project rather that holiday kind of spirit in a broader way that was, I guess, constructive as well, that spoke to the architecture of the buildings that we have. And I think that when we did the lights, the idea was to do them professionally so that they would have an impact that would be akin to something that's kind of Disney-esque, but is more directly connected to the spirit of the architecture of the city. And I think at length, years ago, John and I talked about the necessity for us every year to try to maybe add something particular in order to keep the crowds interested, so it's not the same every year.
Right.
But not to do something that detracted from the original concept of simply lighting the buildings and doing it professionally and doing with a well-thought-out plan.
Right.
So my sense is to look at that is kind of a random thing. It's sort of like we've got a dark space, let's throw something in it. One year, let's put trees there. One year, do something different. It would make more sense probably to broaden the organization or the group, or the input rather, to other people that have invested in the square.
I agree with you.
And get their ideas, and rather than do these things ad hoc, probably look at it as a whole. What's the overall plan? And then have that plan in February or March so that you really have time to think that through, so that everybody can see what this would look like. Because in order to maintain the spirit and the impact that was originally the idea and the intention and the cost, because the cost isn't simply Main Street. The cost is to the city, is all the departments of the city that contribute to this, and then contribute to the celebration and the lighting and all of that. And so it seems like there needs to be a more inclusive group probably with input to make sure we have a plan and plenty of time to think about it and know exactly what it's going to look like and exactly where it's going to go before anybody comes in and asks to consider, would this work? And we don't even know where it would go. And actually, I don't even know what it is. So I wouldn't be for it.
Okay.
And George, I'd like to make another comment, Paul, before you or Jim. Bill, I agree with you. I think, I mean, George, I really appreciate you and your staff, trying to think outside the box, but I do agree with Bill that this maybe needs to be a larger group that would kind of design this and make a decision along with your help. And I still just want to remind people that Mr. Ward, last year or the year before, left us that endowment for Christmas lighting that we could either extend around the square or Southtown. But I do think it needs to be something that's going to kind of match or just enhance what we already have. I do agree with you, maybe some of the areas of the square where it's a little bit darker, maybe we could, with your group, look at it, how we could enhance that area with the same type of lighting that we've got up there. But all this, even with the generous contribution from Mr. Ward, that we'd all, or most of us would like to, see that expanded, we still have to keep in mind it's going to be the city staff that's going to be doing, and not that your group doesn't, and all the volunteers that spend hours doing this. A lot of it's going to fall on the backs of the service and the Parks Department. So.
And just to respond to both of you, I do understand that and I appreciate it. And things were not done in a in a back room somewhere. We actually have a design committee. We called in artistic holiday decorations. They advised these. Mm-hmm. So we did get some input from professionals, and we did talk to Jansen about it. But I agree with you that long-term, long range, we probably should sit down and talk about a plan. We had $3,000 in the budget. Most holiday decorations are really expensive. This is all we could afford, but I thought it would look nice, and I learned my lesson. So
No, I don't want you to feel that way.
No,
George.
not at all, because
we appreciate
you don't know how
everything.
much we appreciate what you do, George.
I know it would not look that way without Main Street
Right.
assistance and help, but I think we're just all concerned about the amount of work on our city staff, and we know how much time they put into it now, and stretching them a little bit further is just a tough ask of them at this point. Obviously, Mr. Huber brought up some good points, too. And
Well, in looking at these issues, I mean, I've this year been through a couple lengthy prosecutions of vandalism involving the lighting and the police department trying to track down who did it. But if it's something somebody can grab and pull down, it seems to be something that invites vandalism. And we've had a problem this year with kids getting in and breaking things, pulling it down and throwing it. And so if we're going to make something, let's just bear that in mind, because if somebody can grab it, they do, and it causes a problem.
okay. So it sounds like at this point, council's not in favor of adding more as far as the spheres, but certainly appreciate any other ideas. And like Mr. Lamb mentioned, maybe this is a good time to start looking at the overall theme and long-term planning for the square and how we can enhance it. And I know there's questions, coming up about replacing a lot of the lights and things, and so maybe that can be part of the discussion then too, about anything we want to add in that area that's a little bit darker. Okay. And then we have...
Jim, I will just share with the council, we did, Nino can help me, the west and north sides with brand-new lights to try to, so it wasn't so much money and so much work in 1 year. But then the problem is the new lights appear much brighter than the other two sides of the square. So it seems like no matter, we didn't have enough money nor time, because the person that does this for us professionally is a roofer and busy with his regular roofing business. So we thought if we could do it in a 2-year cycle, but then now you will notice it's brighter where the newer ones are, because the other ones are faded and weathered and whatnot. So I just share that with you.
Thanks, Mayor. probably wouldn't have noticed it, but now I'll have to check and see if it. All right, well, thank you, and thank you, Main Street, for all your work and for coming tonight and presenting the idea, and we sure appreciate everything you do, so. And then we had one item to add to the agenda tonight for finance as an RCA. It's 22241, an increased expenditure for Absolute Construction for the CHIP project. I'm not sure if this is, Mayor, are you doing this, or?
I can take that. Yeah.
Oh, Andrew, thank you.
So this is an increase of CHIP project at 850 North Huntington. The original amount was $14,000. This is an increase of $2,695 due to some unexpected construction costs. Total amount will be $16,695, and there are funds in the grant to accommodate the increase.
Thank you, Mr. Dutton. Any questions from council?
Move to approve.
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Okay. Anything else for finance this evening? If not, we are adjourned. Thank you.